April is a busy, busy month. I think it's probably the most busy in beekeeping. So things to do in April. If you were feeding, you don't need to feed anymore. There's plenty of stuff out there. But you can now remove the insulation, remove the tar paper, remove the moisture boards, the shims that you had on top. All that stuff can go away. And now it's important. Yeah.
Well, the only exception to that would be packages, right? If you've got a package, you should continue to feed.
Good point. Yeah. Absolutely. Package bees and new beekeepers usually have no drawn foundation. So you cannot fill in, you cannot ask the bees to fill in that undrawn foundation without feeding. So yes, for new beekeepers, new hives, you must have sugar syrup 1:1. 1 part sugar, 1 part water. Good point. And you also need to provide water. Yes.
If you're new and just got your package or something, and how long would you continue to keep that 1:1?
Yeah, just keep going until they're all filled.
Until they fill out. They draw it on.
Until they stop taking is another way of doing it.
They'll tell you when they're done. Yeah. That in order to make wax, it takes 8 pounds of honey to make 1 pound of wax. That's the energy equivalent. Wax is a very intensive experience. They produce a lot of it. They draw all that's on the foundation, but they make more with their wax glands in the abdomen. It takes a lot of work. And not all bees do it. They all have different classes of bees. It's rough on them. So they sure need the honey. I like to provide water if you're not near a real convenient water source. I like to provide water in a quart jar with a Boardman feeder. So a Boardman feeder is about this big, and it holds like a mason jar lid. And you can buy the perforated lids where you can punch your own nail. And just fill that with water, put it in the front entrance. It saves them a trip, and they'll appreciate it. It's important now to equalize brood numbers per hive. So if you have 6 hives and one is chunking out 6 frames of sealed brood every week, and the other one has got 1, well, you better take 3 from one and give it to the other. So spread the wealth. You want all hives to come up equally. That will prevent robbing in the future, because if the bees don't have enough resources, they'll try to steal from their neighbors. So it's important to equalize, and I've done that. I had a nuke that was struggling. This was like 3 weeks ago. I had a hive that had an awful lot of brood. I just took 3 frames and gave it to the nuke. The nuke said, "Thank you very much." And the other hive didn't bat an eye, and they got 6 frames the next week. So equalize the brood numbers throughout your apiary. So people used to say when apple blossoms are open, dandelions are open, time to add supers. Now's the time to add a super. Put at least 1 on. And then every week you can probably add another super. Because we're going to get cold, so that will slow things down a little bit. But this is the season. They're going to make a lot of, going to be bringing in a lot of nectar, making a lot of honey, and making a lot of brood. And this tends to congest the hive. And the queen doesn't like it if she can't find an easy place to lay eggs. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But one thing to increase bee space is to put a couple supers on. So if a few thousand bees go zoom up into the super, then you're really decreasing the load on the 2 beeps that you have down below. Or if you're crazy one day.
Crazy.
And you're trying to do a single frame system, single deep system. Add a frame of undrawn foundation to every box. It's important to keep turning over the frames in your deep, because as the bees, yes.
Is there a special spot you should put it, like on the end, or?
I like to put it like around position 3. If you still have an entrance reducer on, that's the place where they come in is where they start putting all the honey and the nectar and the pollen. And so I would put it over on that side. They're working. But you really don't need mouse guards right now, I don't think. And you could use a entrance reducer if you suspect robbing or if you have a weak hive. I don't have anything on it right now. Just took it off. My opinion is that when there's a full nectar flow on, everybody's happy and they want access as soon as they can, and they want to get in and get things put away. Now's the time to reverse the deeps or selectively move the sealed brood down. So a lot of people just reverse the whole top deep and put it on the bottom. If you want to do that, the best way to do that is to leave the inner cover on. So take the outer cover off, have a table nearby. And if you don't have a table in your bee yard, you really should get one. Because I don't like bending over, and I can't bend over sometimes. And if you have an 80-pound super and you're going all the way to the ground, put it down on the outer cover, well, that's tough. So have a table on the side and then just swivel and put it on the table. So take the outer cover off. Now you've got the top deep, inner cover. Pry the top deep off with the inner cover on. Slide it over to the table. And now you have the lower deep on the hive stand. Take the lower deep off, prop it up against another hive or something. Clean out the bottom board. There's a lot of dead leaves there. Or, any debris from the winter if you haven't been down to the bottom. Clean that all off. And now set the bottom board back. And now you take your top deep and put it on the bottom. It has the inner cover on, so hopefully all the bees aren't swarming around and trying to kill you. And then you can easily take the inner cover off, put it on the bottom, formerly bottom deep, and then put that on the top. And then you're done. So what you've done is the queen is almost always in the upper deep. So now she's down in the lower deep, and the upper deep is now mostly empty. You can have some pollen and nectar in there, but it'll be mostly empty, and if the queen wants to move up, she'll have plenty of space to lay more eggs and prevent swarming. So another way to do this is selectively take the frames from the top deep that have sealed brood in them and put them down in the bottom. So this is Herman Werner's technique. So I've got his name there, Herman Werner. And you can find his method of swarm control if you go to the CCBA website. And then you go to Document Library, and then these are all little pull downs. So in How To, you can find best practices and guidelines, and then finally the document Swarm Prevention. Then you click on that, and then you get a whole Xerox copy of Herman Werner's booklet, which is from the 70s, but I think it's very good, and I think you should take a look at it. It's an alternate method of swarm control, and you don't have to do a demery, and this is a lot easier than a demery. So let's look at the next slide. So this is from Herman's. This is from Herman's booklet. So here we have a 2-deep system, and you just put a super on top. Note that this is Exhibit F, April 6th on the bottom. It's the close of the 3rd visit. So he's already been in there 3 times, and it's only April 6th. So in March, he starts the process of capturing the sealed brood and moving it down. So the idea is the queen likes to build up, and if you take the sealed brood and put it in the center of the bottom deep, and then replace it with empties in the top deep, she's always going to have room to lay more eggs. So now he's in the 3rd week, 3rd time he's been in the hive, and the solid bars are sealed brood. So the bottom chamber now, by the 3rd week, is all full of sealed brood. There's one on the left, that's an empty frame. And then the 2nd deep, there's 3 sealed brood in the middle. The dashed vertical lines are undrawn foundation. So now he's putting in undrawn foundation in upper deep. This allows the refreshing of the deeps and allows the bees to invest energy in making wax, so they're not getting congested with honey, because that's the other thing you want to prevent in April and May is honey in the deeps. If you have too much honey in the deeps, you're going to have a honey dome form, and the bees are going to say, "Oh, we don't need any more honey," and they're not going to pay attention to the supers. So have the undrawn foundation in there in the second deep, and there's drawn foundation but empty, and then on frames 10 and 18 there, that's honey. So it's either new honey or leftover honey from the year before. So it's got honey on the outside, and then open foundation, and then undrawn foundation, and then in the middle, 7, 8, 9, it's 3 more sealed brood. So at this point, you can't do anything more in the bottom deep, except if you put sealed brood in there 3 weeks ago, they're now going to be hatching, and now it's going to be open frames. So then those open frames in the bottom can be moved up. So that's the system that Herman used to prevent swarms, preventing the swarm impact. Because the queen wants to swarm if she can't lay eggs, and the hive wants to swarm if it's too congested. So you keep putting the sealed brood down, and then when it hatches, you can move the empty frames up. And I find this is an effective method. It, for my mind, is a little easier than demery because it involves 2 less pieces of woodenware, and you might give it a shot. And finally, up on the top, is put an empty super and put 2 new frames in the super as well. And if the bees are, they're not going to make as much honey if they're busy making foundation, because I just told you it takes 8 pounds of honey to make a pound of wax. So if you give them something to do, and space to do it, probably won't get a swarm. Any questions on that?
Oh, this time of year, you're generally your bees weekly doing something.
Yeah, you got to be there weekly.
Otherwise, you're
You got to stay ahead.
so
At least every 2 weeks.
your commitment now to prevent swarming has to be weekly, probably. Otherwise they're going to take out.
But I find this is a handy method, and it's
And at the conference,
relatively easy.
Robin
to do.
said double deeps have more brood, right? So a single box people were knocked down about
So
because
the single-
Robin sort of supported the double deep brood box.
It's okay to be a single. You can overwinter in a single.
Of course you can.
Some people overwinter 3 frames in a new.
Of course you can.
And I've done 5 frames in a new. But you can continue to be a single deep person. But right now, if you have 8 frames of brood in that box,
You got to do something with it.
you got to do something. The easiest thing to do, put another deep right on top. Boom! Queen goes up, everybody's happy.
We put a bunch of media.
And then
put
later
the
on in the
top,
season-
and grew to the top.
this guy.
That's not that much harder.
After you put that second deep on, sure, you need a stack of like 6 supers so they can zoom up there and put all the honey away. But later on in the season, after all the honey is collected, you can take that top deep off and just go back to the 1 deep system. That's okay. That's not cheating.
There are some bees I overwintered in single, and instead of doing a demery, I believe it or not, I've added a second deep to let them move up from the single going through winter, and then put a second deep in to see how this double deep food box thing works.
That's part of Cowboy Beekeeping. Whatever the hell you want. See how it works out.
Disregard everything I said. But whatever you do, you have to be in there weekly this time of year.
Can I have the next slide?
Hey, just a question.
Yeah.
Excluders. When you put them on?
I'll put them on now. As soon as you put a super on, you need these.
I mean, I didn't see excluder on the dance. Curious if you had a different.
He puts it between his 2 deeps, and then he runs. He's putting it, but I assume your super's going above your second deep, right?
As in, when Herman puts that first super on, puts a queen excluder. I've tried it sometimes without a queen excluder, because some people say the queen excluder is a honey excluder. They don't like the barrier, so they don't go up as easily into the supers. And to a limited extent, I've seen that. And I think it depends on the type of queen excluder you have. So I've used the flat, it's probably only 1/8 of an inch thick plastic grid. That is too tight. Next best is a metal grid, which gives them a little more space, but that's probably only 1/4 of an inch. So I like the wooden frame. It's a 1/2 inch all the way around with a metal grid. So that's a little more space, and I think that's better for honey production. How?
I would put 2 supers on at the same time on top of the queen excluder. And put the top super back a little bit so there's a gap.
Yeah.
So these can go directly in and out of the queen super.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you have a
So
question?
that's part of my, just a second, that's part of my ventilate recommendation. So what I do in the spring, when it gets warm enough, and you might want to wait another week, I make every piece of woodenware offset. So even the second deep, I pull it back a 1/2 an inch, so they can go into the top of the first deep, or the bottom of the second deep. And then I put the super 1/2 inch forward, and then so forth. So I stagger every single piece of woodenware that I put on. So this allows the bees to come in from the top, from the sides, from the bottom. So if you've got a stack of 2 deeps and 6 supers, they don't have to, and you have them all together, solid, no other entrances. You're expecting them to go into the hive entrance and then climb up 6 flights to the top to drop off pollen, nectar, honey, water. Let's give them a little break. And also ventilate the crack the top, the outer cover, and put it up on the edge of the inner. So you've got an angle, and the back is up on the outer cover.
That's a general holes in supers. And now they set them back. Do you have an opinion on whether or not a hole in a super or setback super is a
I think if you had high beetle problems, maybe do a hole instead.
There is nothing that's keeping those.
But is there a brand or type, or do you make your own for the excluder? Because I keep reading about all different kinds of plastic. And the wood is actually the one that caught my eye recently, just in posts and reading things. But is there, do you make your own?
I buy a lot of stuff at Ike's Woodkeeping Woodworking Shop. Forest Hill Woodworking.
Oh, okay.
Forest Hill Woodworking. It's in nickel mines. Yeah, Paris.
Another reason not to use those metal ones with the metal wood, there's an opening in there, and if you have hive beetle problems, they live inside that track.
Oh, really? The
Yeah.
wood?
Oh, no, not the wooden one, the metal one. So the one that has the metal rim is just like it just encloses like this,
Yeah.
and hive beetles just live all over that. So I've got to get rid of mine. I can't, or I got to put something in there. And anybody want hive beetles? Come to my property.
Yes.
When you stagger the boxes, like you were saying, 1/2 inch, is water a concern?
They don't mind.
Well,
They
it runs
can
down
seal
the any water that gets in runs straight down the front of the inside of the front of that hive body, and right down to the bottom board and out. Yeah. And now, if you have a solid bottom board, you may want to make sure you have that front leaning hive orientation, so the water can run out and not pool in the back. If you have a screen bottom board, no big deal.
What if you have a beetle bottom board with diatomaceous earth in there?
So
Then
that's
you can't have water running down in there.
Oh, yes. When it starts to get cold, then you put it all back. When they start to rob dirt in the summer, yeah, you got to put it back.
What about an upper entrance? Still no.
So actually, if you go back a slide to that diagram, when he had undrawn,
Yeah, he's got undrawn up there.
right?
I don't know if he's using a queen excluder or not.
If you have one frame of drawn comb, they'll come up.
Yeah.
The problem is when the whole box is plastic.
Got it.
So if you have one comb up there, they'll go up through it and work the rest. But if it's completely plastic, like George said, there's 2 barriers, right? They have a box of plastic and a queen excluder. They won't go up. until they like go out.
I drill a 3/4 inch hole right about there in the deeps, just above the handholds, and so I use that for ventilation of the deeps. I don't tend to do it in the supers because I have shallow supers and I do put 3/4 inch holes in the deeps right above the handles, and I think that helps with ventilation. And if it gets cold, you can just cork them. So in the winter, I put corks in. So this is the accumulated growing degree days that I talked about before. It's now fixed and online from the USA National Phenology Network, USANPN.org, and ask for visual print this out. And it goes by zip code. So you enter your zip code and then get these displays. Black line is 30-year average. And blue line is this year's, and the orange yellow line is last year's. So that's the way it's displayed. You can see that it was pretty cold, colder than normal, 30-year average, all of February and into March. And then finally, this started to climb up above 100 around the first week of March. And I've always maintained that around 100 accumulated growing degree days, they will start to lay eggs. So they started to lay eggs in my area, first week of March, and now we're all the way up to 800 growing degree days, and it's warmer now than the 30-year average. No surprise there. Can you go back 2 slides? So what this means to me, then, I saw sealed drone brood from the end of March. That's the first time I saw the sealed drone brood. So if you calculate another 13 days to hatch and another 16 days to achieve sexual maturity, so then the drones can go out to their drone congregation areas and mate with virgin queens, April 29th would be the earliest day to swarm in my area, up on the top of the hill. And I have a north-facing slope too. Southern Chester County, they may have already swarmed. Have you seen any swarms down there?
I know that too.
Yeah. So it all depends on temperature. So this is swarm season. It might be a little bit different north to south in the Chester County. But this is swarm season, and you got to pay attention.
I had a swarm a day or two after the conference. Think about how cold it was on March 28th, 29th. Monday or Tuesday, I had a hive swarm. It's also the hive that I found capped drone brood 2 weeks earlier. Yeah. It was like, I know it's going to swarm, I just wasn't expecting it to swarm, immediately after the cold. But if you think about it, that's actually, if you got a stretch of cold and you got some warm, that's your swarm time. So we've got this cold coming up. Keep an eye out, and then, later this week when it warms up. So you go.
Good luck with your own Cowboy Beekeeping. So I won't be doing this next month. It'll be at George's. The meeting will be at George's in conjunction with the plant sale. I'm also having surgery on my ankle again because I didn't fix it the first time. So beekeepers helping beekeepers. I'll be of need of volunteers in May and the first 2 weeks of June. If anybody can help me out, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, where are you located?
What's that?
Where are you located?
Oh, downtown.
Downtown.
Right up at the top of the hill.